Welcome back. I am Lucas Guerin.
And I'm Mackenzie Flick.
And you are listening to the Bago Broadcasters straight from the 3 Mic Studio in Jimtown High School. Today we've been given the very special privilege to interview Indiana's very own state representative, Jackie Walorski. Welcome, Mrs. Walorski.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your very busy schedule to sit down and talk with us.
It's a pleasure to be here. I am so excited to see what you're doing. This is awesome.
Yeah, we've been waiting for this for a while. We actually had plans to do this towards the end of the year, but, things happen, and now we're doing it now, so let's just get right to it.
Absolutely.
So most people know you as being a politician, so I'm sure at least a few people are curious. What was it exactly that got you into politics?
So I am passionate about helping people and fighting for people. And shortly after I was married, my husband and I went and spent 4 years in a post-communist country of Romania, which is in Eastern Europe. And we did it to basically help impoverished kids that were literally living in sewers below the ground. And we felt the need, got involved in our local church. We went through our local church. And you know what? For what we saw there, it changed our lives. And we were there during 9/11 when America was attacked. And so changed my perspective forever. I came back and basically said, hey, you know what? If we can go there and help, I want to help here. And I want to fight for people. And I want to fight for kids and bring down the mountains that are in front of people's lives.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I've heard from at least a few people that you do a lot of great stuff to help people in the community, veterans, children, all sorts of people. So your work definitely is appreciated very much. So thank you.
I'm grateful to be there. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
What are your top priorities in Congress for the upcoming year?
I think you all remember in the news last year when there was a school bus tragedy down in Rochester. 3 kids were instantly killed waiting to get on the bus. So I got involved immediately to bring down a federal bill, so a law, that basically said that the government, our U.S. government, will look through the entire country and find out the best practices of school bus safety and then be able to go to school corporations and say, hey, here's the best way to put new technology, new digital electronics on your buses and that kind of a thing. This should never happen again in this country where a child goes out to get on a school bus and a parent never sees that child again because the child's killed getting on or getting off of a school bus. So I would tell you that the 3 priorities are the School Bus Safety Act, which is it's about halfway through the process right now. Family First Transition Act. Yesterday, I brought the chairman from the subcommittee into this district, and we toured the district and talked about what's the best thing we could do for foster youth in our state, because our state's kind of behind in that area. And so we have this Family First bill, and it basically says, as it comes down, that if you're a foster youth and you need someplace to go, and for whatever reason you're vulnerable, you can't stay with your family, your biological right-on family, that we would first look to your extended family to place you and not have all the trauma that has gone on for so many years in the state of Indiana and around the country when you're trying to get placed. And so it basically says families first, extended family, grandparents, those kinds of things. And then it lets the federal funding that actually comes into the state be far more flexible than it ever has before. So the governor and the legislature can use that money, for example, for what works in Indiana. They don't have to use money for what didn't work. They can use money for what is working. So it's far more flexible. That's the second issue. And then the third issue is, and you may have heard this, the USMCA is a trade bill. Indiana is the 5th largest trader in the country. So here we are as a state, 6.2 million people, but we're the 5th largest exporter. And as you all know, especially here in Elkhart County, obviously we manufacture all things. We make RVs and boats and trailers and defensive vehicles and those kinds of things. So I have been at the table for 18 months with the president, with Ambassador Lighthizer, making sure that we get the best deal, the fairest deal, opening up markets for Hoosier products.
Wow, well, that all sounds very important. You seem to have a very interesting job. Politics aside, obviously, any people that live around here know that you are very involved in the community. You do a lot outside of your normal political job. So if I were to ask you, what would you say is the thing you enjoy doing most in your free time?
So I don't have a whole lot of free time. As you guys know, I live very close to the school. A lot of people from Jimtown do see my husband and I when I'm in town. We ride bikes through the entire Jimtown parking lot of the school. We know every nook and cranny in this place. We've seen it. And now that the weather is kind of crappy, and we're back into this whole winter thing, we're doing a lot of walking, but we spend a lot of time just utilizing the services, the parking lots, the facility of Jimtown schools. And I'll tell you, one of the coolest things that I can remember is we spent this summer as we rode through here watching that turf being laid, that artificial turf field. Coolest thing I have ever seen is watching the transition from a real field to that artificial field. So very cool. But we spent a lot of time exercising.
And the field looks great, doesn't it?
It's incredible.
Yeah, the
like
people
it.
did a very good job on that.
Yeah. If you could accomplish one thing for the rest of your career, what would it be?
I think the most important thing we can do as Hoosiers is keep our economy strong, keep the momentum moving, because of the fact that we are one of the largest manufacturing districts in the country now, not just in the Midwest, but in the entire nation. We are leading manufacturing for the United States of America out of this district, and it's very important to keep the economy moving, because if you want to be able to get the American dream and your family wants the American dream, they got to be able to be in an economy that's moving, an economy that's growing, that has to stay literally upward bound.
Yeah. And I know the economy is a big focus in today's world. You know, I know President Trump is focusing a lot on that. And earlier you mentioned a couple other topics and issues as well. So I feel like I should ask, what do you feel is the most important issue that we currently are facing today as a country?
Well, it's the economy, and it is absolutely making sure that prosperity is there if you want it, and that you can always continue to climb and do better in this country. The American dream should be accessible to everybody in this nation because of the prosperity in our country, the economy that is moving, the stability of the economy in our area here. Obviously, you can see it wherever you go. You know, there's help wanted signs up everywhere, and very, very few people to take those jobs. And part of that is just because, you know, we're employing people, and people are making money. People are having families. People are settling down, and they're in our communities, and we are growing a massive economy. And I think that that's the number one priority. Trade makes such a difference in this country. It's not a real hot topic that a lot of people sit around and talk about trade, but you know what? For the last 18 months, I've been in the weeds on it, literally talking to the president about it, talking to Ambassador Lighthizer about it. I'm what you call a shareholder at the table, been very involved in negotiating the things that are happening at the trade level with tariffs. And so I never thought I'd be there. I would never would have guessed in a million years that it would come to that. But that's because the economy is what we've got to concentrate on, and we've got to protect capitalism. And I think that they go hand in hand.
Yep, definitely. And that's just, you know, you keep talking about all these things that you're doing. I can't imagine how stressful and how much work that's all got to be. So that's really impressive to know that we have people like you and all of our other state representatives working so hard to accomplish all this stuff. And, you know, that's just blows my mind, and that's just so cool.
With how much you're involved in Indiana, what is your favorite thing about this state?
Hoosiers are problem solvers. And, you know, there's a lot of states, everybody does their thing, but there's no place like the state of Indiana. I'll give you a really quick example. When I was a state rep, there was an F3 tornado in Napanee, and that was my district in the State House. I was down there on what was called First Light with the Indiana State Police looking at damage and damage assessments. And I was down there a week later. Before the federal government could even be notified of the damage in Napanee, it was totally put back together. It was good as new. Nobody could tell anything even happened there because we're problem solvers. Hoosiers are creative. We're entrepreneurs. We take care of each other. We take care of each other in our neighborhoods. When something happens, we're there and we help and we pitch in and we lend a hand. Biggest issue is we are so independent. We solve so many of our own problems. Everybody wants to be a Hoosier, but they can't.
Yeah, I remember. Well, would that tornado that you mentioned by chance be the one from 2006?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I remember that. Yeah, that was terrifying.
They found cows in Michigan. I'll never forget that.
Oh my
wow.
gosh.
Yeah, amazing. And it was quite devastating as an F3 tornado. But the resiliency and the work ethics and the problem-solving ability of Hoosiers is, I think, the best in the nation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, considering how bad it was, the damage and stuff, you didn't really hear a whole lot about bad things afterwards because everyone got it taken care of. Everyone did what they had to do.
Absolutely. Took care of each other.
Yeah, it kind of stinks that sometimes it takes stuff like those horrible tragedies to bring people together like that. But if that's what it takes to help grow a community, I guess, hey, at least it ends up well in the end.
And it shows like how Hoosiers work together, and it's great.
Yeah. Okay, so the next question I have for you is, for some who may not know, what is the process behind getting an idea through the political system? I know it's a pretty complicated thing, I can imagine, so could you explain for us and all of our listeners what exactly goes into all of that?
Yeah, let me first say that one person makes a difference in this country. One of the things about the United States, which is different from any other nation on the face of the world, is one person makes a difference. One person might just get one idea, and that one idea might just drive them because of passion to go make a difference. And so you start out with an idea. And you draft it into a bill form, and it goes through the House, which is what I'm in Congress. Goes through the House, and it has to pass. If it passes, it goes to the U.S. Senate. If it passes the Senate, it goes to the President for his signature. And the great thing about how a bill is made in our country is chances are when it goes through the system, it's going to die. And that's important because you don't want an overregulated nation. You don't want so many rules that you can't possibly comply. You want things to be thought of very, very logically. You want it to actually be a problem solver. You don't want it to be a problem. So it goes through a checks and balances, which is really tough. So very few bills pass, and I'm okay with that.
Yep, the ones that do are the really good ones.
Absolutely.
Okay, so it looks like we're running a little short on time. So before we do wrap things up, do you have anything you'd like to add?
I am just so impressed with you guys. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen at Gymtown.
Thank you very much.
To have a podcast and to be
Yeah.
out there talking about what you're doing. I worked in media. When I graduated from high school and college, I worked as a local reporter at WSBT, CBS affiliate here.
Nice.
But to see what you're doing here with the same kind of equipment we use there, I am absolutely so excited for you guys. I'm so honored to be here on one of your first podcasts. I wish you all the luck in the world. I would love to come back and talk to you.
Yeah,
when you want to have me back again, obviously you know where to find me.
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Well, friends and family, this was a very informative and enlightening conversation we had here. We are so very lucky to have Mrs. Jackie Walorski come to the studio and sit down to talk with us. Thank you so much for that, Mrs. Walorski.
You bet. This is awesome.
Yeah, it is. Thank you to all of you who listened as well. We have a full lineup of more podcasts coming to you here on bogobroadcasters.podbean.com.
I want to thank Anna Turpin and Colleen Surface for handling all our pre-planning for our podcast, and also Wyatt Newcomer and Calvin Steinman for their tech stuff they do. Without that crew, all this magic wouldn't happen.
Again, thank you, Mrs. Walorski, and thank you to all of our listeners as well. We will see you all on our next podcast.
Yay! Awesome, you guys. That was cool.
Yeah, it was.
You got a great voice, man. You're going to be doing radio.
Thank you.
You'll be doing potting.
Kill the record.